So welcome to the second half of our course today. I'm going to show you how you can write programs with the arrays. So I'm going to share my screen with you and show you how we can write programs, just to show you the logic of the arrays. So I'm just going to write a question here, a random question that I'm just going to make up. And using this question, we will use it as a template, basically, to describe how arrays work. Once I have written down the question, I'm going to solve it. Meanwhile, I might not see anything that you type on the chat apart from the participant panel. I'm not looking anywhere else. If you want to stop me or ask questions, as I said previously, please raise your hand because I do not see anything you type elsewhere. So raise your hand if you want to talk to me. Now going back to this exercise, I'm going to write basically a question that we can solve with arrays, so you can see how arrays basically work. Write a C++ program that asks the midterm results of 10 people in a class. Having taken these results from the keyboard, calculate and display the average of the students so that the average pass mark can be displayed. Now we're going to write a program that will basically ask 10 people 10 marks in a class, and having done so, we will calculate the average of students. Now I will solve this exercise both with arrays and without arrays to see the difference and why we use arrays and for what. The first one, I'm going to solve it without arrays, so you can see that every single question that we see is in fact can be solved without arrays, but it has its own use. So you can type the standard statements such as include and main, which I'm going to finish in here. And in order to basically solve this, you will need to get 10 different variables to make sure that this will work. So if you want to get 10 different values from the students, you need to basically define 10 different variables of the integer or double type. Now the type wasn't indicated, so I am assuming that the type is an integer. When it is not given to you, you can define the values as integer. Now, in order to get 10 people, we need to have 10 different values. And each and every one of these should be repeated. Please enter the result of student 1. We get S1. Then S2, then S3, then S4, and so forth. As you can see, this is a very repetitive process. For 10 people, you can do this repetitive process and you can basically avoid with it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It is possible to get these values one by one, as you can see. If it is 10, I'll just need to copy paste 10 times. What if my class was, which is actually a fact, over 300 people? Then what will I do? I will create 300 variables and get them one by one. This is not very efficient, is it? There's a lot of copy paste here, as you can see, and you are repeating the same process over and over again. In programming, repeating something many times is something that we do not encourage. It is discouraged because it consumes memory. from the computer RAM usage, which then results the program to run slower and slower. The reason why programs run slower on your computer is because the computer's memory is not good enough to run that program, or the program itself wasn't very efficiently programmed, so that it is not using the memory in an efficient way. So as a programmer, one of the jobs that we have is to use the efficiency of the memory in a good way, so that the performance will be good in all situations. Now, as you can see from this example, repeating the definition of a variable, if it is 10, it is something that you can achieve. But what if it is over 300, which is basically what this course is? Over 300 people are taking my course. So if I want to calculate the average, I should enter them one by one and calculate it. That is not very efficient, given the scenario that I have to copy paste each and every one of them. So there's another way to do this, and we can create that way using the arrays. So I'm going to reduce this to 10 just to show you the difference. You can still come and copy paste these parts, but instead of creating 10 different values, what we're going to do in here is that we're going to create one value of array. So we're going to say midterm mark. And how many marks do I have? That is what I'm going to do. Just by defining 10 in here, I indicate the computer that I will store 10 different values. You see them, they're being written in here one by one. Instead, I create an array of 10, which will store 10 different values. Now, to get this, we're going to create a for loop. We're going to say something like integer I start from 0, because we know the first component is always 0, less than 10, I plus plus. Once you have done this, it will start from component 0, go up to the component 9, 10 is not included, and as you can see, it goes to n minus 1. And once you have done it, you can store the value. So you can say something like, please enter mark number, whatever number you have there. Now, one of the things that you should know is that this, if you show the I value here.
Yo, I just rolled this joint. Anyone want to light up? Like, fuck.
So it will start from 0, and it can go up to I plus 1. When you say I plus 1, it will start from 0, go up to it, because this is 0. The first component will be 1, and the second component will be 2. The third component will be 3, and so forth. So we can get this one as the midterm mark. So once you have written this down, you do not need to write it like this, one by one. It is possible that you can achieve this as many as you like. Just by making this 100 and this one 100, you avoid the code of repetition. Because if you put 100 here, it will be repeated 100 times. If you put 300, it will be repeated 300 times. If you put 10, it will be repeated 10 times. A good idea is to basically define the size of the array as a constant value. So you can basically define a size, say 10 in here, and you keep the size in everywhere. This way, just by changing the size at the top, the size of the array can be changed instantly. Because you put the size here, you put the size there, and just by changing this to, let's say, 5, you automatically make this 5 and also this one 5. Rather than changing them one by one, you can control it from one place only. So if I try to run this thing now, you will see that it will ask me let's save this arrays. It will basically ask me, let me put a space here, 5 times. Oops, wrong place, sorry. So 50, 65, 12, 8, 9, 100. And as you can see, it asked me 5 times. If I go there and change the size to 10, you can see that it automatically is reflected to the program. So this time it will ask it 10 times, just entering random values. You can see that it goes to 7, 8, 9, and finally 10. And that's where it stops. Okay, this is the power of arrays. As you can see, it gives you the option to use the source code in a more efficient way, in a tidier way. Imagine if you had 10 different values, you had to go and write them one by one until you reach the 10. The number of lines here will way exceed the number of lines in this program. We can see that this program does exactly what this program should do in less lines. This means that the less lines you have in a program, the faster the program will run. And this also means that it is more efficient because instead of defining 10 different blocks in your RAM, it actually defines one block and divides that block into 10 units. Okay, that is why using arrays is an important thing, that especially if you have a lot of code repetition, you should always use arrays. So going on, if you can define the components themselves, it is possible to show them. So in order to show the components, if you already know the marks, let's say, you can display them instantly using the for loop as well. So all you have to do is to start from component 0, 1, 2, which will go up to 3, but 3 is not counted, and display them one by one. Any questions so far? Basically, the way that you get the components and the way that you show them is the same. Then it is always in a for loop. So you can see from this example that it starts from 0, goes up to the size 1 by 1. And in this example, we got the values themselves in a cin statement, just as I did that in my program. As you can see, I did that also with a cin statement here. And the output process is basically going to be something similar, but this time around, you will only show the values rather than getting the values from the user. You will show the values themselves. So it will only have cout. Right, guys, if you have anything you do not understand, please raise your hand and I'll give you the right to talk. Here's an exercise in here which we can do, should we want to. In this exercise, create an array named myArray with the elements of 100, 1, 2, 3, 4, then iterate and display them one by one. So let's just copy paste this question into our dev C++ so we can look up. So I'm going to come in here, create new source question. Create an array named myArray with the elements of this, then iterate the array to display the elements one by one. Going into here, I'm just going to copy paste the standard statements. Integer. I'm going to give it a name. What was the name given? It didn't say. Oh, it's my array, so I'm going to use that one. So I'm going to go in there, my array. And you can leave this empty. You can also fill it up should you want to. Now, because the values are already given, I'm just going to copy paste these values here. And as you can see, my array will have initial values. This is basically saying something like this: integer x equals to 10. Basically, when you define the x, you give it a default value, right? Basically, when you define the array, you give them a default value. This does not mean that those values will never change. You can change them. You can override it. Just as you override an x value, it is possible to override the values in here. And what you do in there is that once the value is overwritten, the new value appears. So in order to show, for example, show the value of 104, in order to show it, we need to count the offset number. Remember that this array will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 different components. So even if you don't type, this is actually 10. Okay? So even if this is not written down, the compiler at the background calculates this as 10. In order to show 104, we have to display 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So if you want to show the component of 104, you need to say something like my array 4. It is not 5. A lot of students fall into this trap. They say, if I want to show the value of 104, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5. So let me just write 5 there, which is completely wrong. Remember that computer starts counting from 0. So the first index value is 0. Second one is 1. Third one is 2. Fourth one is 3. Fifth one is 4, and so forth. Okay? That is why these ones are matching, as you can see. You do not have to match them, of course, but in this question, it is matching. So if you want to show the 104, you need to basically display this. You can also do operations on it. For example, it is possible to say something like 108 plus 103 equals to. So if you want to show this result, we need to count the number. 108 is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to type my array 8 plus my array 3. So this will get 0, 1, 2, 3, and this is 8. And when you show the component, you can basically show them here. This will display 104. This is going to be 104. This is going to be 108 plus 103, which is 211. Now I'm going to run this application. Let me just save it. So we can type array exercise. And as you can see, 104 is being displayed in here as the outcome. You can see it there. And you can also see 311 as the result of this equation, because this one basically comes there and calculates it. Is it clear? Do you understand what I'm doing here? Hello, are you alive? Do you have any questions about this subject? Okay, very good. So everything is basically clear. If you want me to repeat any part, please raise your hand and talk so we can discuss. Okay? So which part you do not understand, for example, so I can specifically concentrate on repeating that part. So just to show you one more time, when I define an array, it is possible to operate on the array values. I can define the values of the array in here. For example, I can put 10 here. It's up to me if I want to put it. I can define the values, but if I both omit the values and also stop writing 10 in here, this will generate me an error. So if I define my array like this without even giving the values themselves or without even defining how many components reside inside, you will see that this will generate an error. So do not forget that that is a syntax error. Yes, someone has a question. Please talk.
Yes, so about the last line, please. You know, we have two couts, the first one and the last one.
Yeah.
I don't understand the last one.
This one, you didn't understand it.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So basically, you will find the component that resides in my array. The array name is my array, right? And it has 10 components. It says in this line that find the 8th value, 8th offset, and add it with the 3rd offset. Now you have to look at which offset the numbers are. If you look at the 8th offset, this is 0, this is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4, this is 5, 6, 7, and 8. The 8th offset is actually 108. The 3rd offset is actually 103. So whenever you want to calculate these, this will be 108 and this will be 103. The result will be 211. Whenever I run this program now, if I go and try to run it, execute it, you will see 111 being executed there. And 111 is basically displayed in there. Okay? Did you understand it now?
Yes, sir, I got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. So as I said, in a program like this, you can also define the values of arrays, like in here. You do not have to enter them one by one. It's up to you. It's up to the question. But one of the ways should be done. Either you define the size of the array or you define the components themselves. Okay? It is optional if you want to write this or not. Going back to the exercise now, let's look at what we have covered so far. So we've seen the ways that we can display the values. We also seen how we can get them. And let's solve this exercise. Write a program to ask the user how many quizzes he or she has entered in a lecture. The program will ask the grade results of number of quizzes entered. Then the program will show the average. So we can solve this question together just to show how you can use arrays. I'm just going to copy paste this question into the dev C++ so we can basically solve it. Just making the question comment. So write a program to ask the user to enter how many quizzes she or he entered in a lecture. The program will ask the grade of the results based on the number of quizzes, and the program will show the quiz results and the average. So basically, I'm going to save this as an array exercise again. Let's just put second here. And put the standard statements. So because the number of quizzes that is entered is not known right now, I'm going to define an quiz array, but I will keep it a very high number, like 100. I don't know how many quizzes this person has taken yet, because this is something that I'm going to ask. But in a lecture, it is not possible to take 100 quizzes, obviously. Maximum we should take is around probably 10. So I'm defining a higher number than it is possible, just to make sure that whatever number entered here will match with the size of the array, because the size should be always bigger than the number entered, so that we can leave the rest empty. Remember that when you use the arrays, just as I showed you in the slides, when you do not use a block in the array, these ones are automatically left empty. So if you go up and see the exercise given in here, we said double rate 3, and we had only 2 numbers. The third one was never entered. So the computer basically left this as empty, as you can see. The third one, which is the second index, because it starts from 0, 1, and the second one is empty, it automatically puts 0 here. So with following that logic, if I define an array size bigger than it is needed, then the rest of them will be automatically empty. So in this case, I can ask the user, how many quizzes did you have this term? And I'm going to get that as how many quizzes. Now that I know how many quizzes the user has, we can expand this and write the program. We can say something like for integer I equals to 0. Remember that arrays always count from 0. Go to how many quizzes I plus plus. When you use arrays, you will usually use them with for loop. They are like complementary to each other. Once you have defined the for loop, now you can ask the user to enter them one by one. Enter quiz. For example, which quiz you want to enter. Let's say the first one. I plus 1. Just going to put them into bracket. Why do I type I plus 1? Because if I type I here, it will show quiz 0. But quiz 0 is not something that makes sense to us, because the first quiz we make is the quiz 1. We do not say quiz 0. For computer, it is 0. But we human beings, we do not count from 0. We count from 1. Our initial number is usually first. So what I do in here, instead of saying 0, I say I plus 1, which means 0 plus 1. The first one will be 1. Second one will be 2. Third one will be 3, and so forth. Once I have got this, I'll take the quiz and insert in here. Quiz, for example, I. This will allow me to store each and every one of the quizzes. To calculate the sum, I can basically define a sum here. Come down and say something like sum plus equals to the quiz. Each time the quiz is entered, add it to the sum itself. To calculate the average, I will have to basically divide this to the number of quizzes that was given. So average is equals to sum divided by the number of quizzes. In this case, how many quizzes you have entered. Remember that if you want to show the average, you can do this in terms of float and display it. Cout average of quizzes. And that will be average. So arrays also allow you to build flexible programs. As you can see in this question, I do not know how many quizzes this person had. He could have had 2, 3, 4, maybe only one. But regardless of the circumstance, I can calculate how many quizzes he or she had, enter them, and also calculate their average. To run this program, as you can see, the first thing it does, it asks me how many quizzes this person had. Let's say 3. I got 52 from one, 45 from another, and 79 from the last one. And as you can see, it is able to calculate the average of these 3 quizzes. So three different ones are calculated, and the average is displayed. It is possible that you can enter more or less. Just 2 quizzes, for example, I got 66 from one, 100 from the other, and the average is 83. So as you run the program, you can see that you can enter as many as you like. Once I entered 5, it will ask me 5 times. This allows, as you can see, a lot of flexibility. And based on the values you entered, it calculates the average and displays it in here. With the arrays, it is possible to create flexible programs like this. Once again, I ask how many quizzes this person had, then created a for loop using 0 up to that specific number, whatever number being entered here. Get each and every one of the quizzes one by one, added them, then calculated the average, which is a great program to show the efficiency and the usage of arrays. Because in a scenario where you will need to use, for example, a flexible structure like this, it is not possible to solve it with the regular way, because you do not know how many quizzes this person has. So this means that there could be 10, there could be 2, there could be 3. It is not possible to create this scenario in here because you do not know how many variables you will have. But based on this structure, I can create a value in here much bigger than what is needed and use only the first 10 slots. It is not the most efficient way, but it is still much better than what we have typed in here. Okay, so basically, just to repeat one more time, when there is a circumstance that you can solve the questions with an array, you should always go for it, since it will allow the program to be efficient. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Please, it's just about the last quiz.
Okay, which part?
I mean, the last quiz. What's the quiz?
The average. Okay, once you have calculated the sum, so basically sum is adding them one by one. You see in here, each time I received it, I added them on the top of it. Once I have done,
hey guys, how you doing?
Once I have done this, I divided them into the total number of quizzes that was entered in here. So once the quizzes are taken, divided them into the how many quizzes it has to calculate it. This is done because I didn't know how many quizzes this person had. This could have been 3, this could have been 4, it could have been only 1, and so forth. Okay, that is why I divided the sum to the how many quizzes it is received. I'm going to stop in here because I am running out of time. So, as I said, I will invite you again.
Yes, sir, it's clear. I understand what you're saying.
I will invite you again to BB and we can meet there.
You just